All right, everyone, we are recording. It's 5 o'clock. Let the minutes reflect and the record reflect that we have a quorum. Well, let me confirm that first. I want to make sure that Charlie Sullivan, you're here. Is Chris Mather here? If you're muted and you're on your phone, it's *6, and that unmutes you. If you're on your computer, I don't know. Victoria, you see Charlie there, right?
I am here.
Hi, Charlie.
Hello. How are you, Kevin?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. And Victoria,
Good.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, she's been doing a bang-up job. Unfortunately, she's being thrown to the fire when you look at our agendas and everything that's going on. But she's keeping her head afloat and she's doing a bang-up job. So it's good that she's on board. Still no Chris Mather. I texted him earlier. He said he'd be here. So let me give him a phone call and see if I can't get in touch with him. I left a message with Chris and I just texted him, so I'm waiting to hear back. I'm hoping nothing's happened. Just stand by. I don't get it.
don't get it.
Chris is logging in now. It's just going to be another minute.
Okay, folks. Chris, you with us, buddy? Victoria, can you see him on there?
1 second. Check in. I don't see him.
Said he was logging in via computer now.
All right, here we go.
Thank you,
We have
Chris. Okay.
Audio
so-
and video. All right.
Thank you. All right. So, quorum being present and the time being 5 o'clock, I will call the meeting to order. Before we get started, I must read the governor's order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people who may gather in one place. This meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website or YouTube channel an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. I look forward to the day where I do not have to read that any longer, folks. Hopefully it's not too far. So again, appreciate your patience. We do have a rather lengthy agenda tonight. So I will just make a point of order if folks, all of the filings and peer review letters and notice of intent paperwork are on our website. So if you go to the freetownma.gov website, go to the boards and committees under Conservation Commission, you'll find it's something that says current conservation filings, Conservation Commission current filings. If you click on that, there'll be all the PDFs associated with our filings and what we're talking about tonight. Victoria, were we able to add the additional filing that I asked you to put on today?
Yes, I did add them. They're in a different spot. They're under news and announcements on the right side of the page.
News and announcements on the right side of the page. Okay. That would, you still under the Conservation Commission boards and committees?
Yes.
News and announcements, there you go. Documents for 12/14 meetings, so you can, some of the documents may be at that location also. So without further ado, we'll continue with the agenda. Number one on our agenda, that's just a polite reminder that those were continued items from last meeting. They've been asked and were granted a continuance to December 28th. Again, 5 o'clock via Zoom. Excuse me. That would be 3 Locust Street, 39 Sammy's Lane, and 41 Water Street. Okay. So item number 2 is a continued notice of intent public hearing for the construction of a solar field at 0 Chase Road, Gurney Farm. The owner is Jefferson D. Moranville. This is a continuation, so I will call that public hearing back to order. Folks, a polite reminder for this one and for all the public hearings. We allow the applicant to make a presentation. They will identify themselves. They will make a presentation. After that, I will open it up to questions from board members and or the public. Keep in mind that not all of us have computers, so I can't see if you're waving. So just politely get my attention by excuse me or whatever. If you have a question, just state your name for the record also. And all the questions will be answered by the applicant, but directed through the board chairman. If we have any other questions, if not, do we have a zoo here?
I don't see him here,
That's
Kevin.
I don't see
What's
him.
that?
Yes, I am on. I am on. Good evening.
Oh,
All right.
hi, Azu.
Yes.
How are you?
Hello. Yes, I am on the. I am on the meetings. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Again, my name is Azue Tuniro, the engineer from ET Engineering Enterprises Inc., who prepare the plans. As you know, the meeting was continued several times to address certain items that came up with the review by environmental partners. I believe that last meeting, we resolved with the commission a few items so that we could focus on some of the more mundane and detailed comments from environmental partners. And we addressed those comments, the outstanding comments related to groundwater mounding, relative to what would be done with the rocks and boulders that are out the site, relative to analysis messages from our drainage calculations. And I believe we addressed those comments, and unless there are other specific comments or questions that I need to address, Mr. Chairman, I would keep it as that and answer questions. But I think the outstanding issues that were raised by environmental partners, and we had a conference with them to iron out some of those issues, and we submitted the necessary information last week, and I believe and that's the extent of that. And I'm available to answer questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Azu. You're right. This project has been going on for a while, and it's only because we have such a thorough review partner with Environmental Partners Group that sometimes these things can take a while. But I'm glad it was all worked out in the end. Do we have a representative from Environmental Partners Group here?
Yes, it's Adam Kran with Environmental Partners.
Hi, Adam. Thank you again for your work on this project. So I know we did have a conference. I was involved with a conference call to try to button up some of these outstanding items and get clarification on it. Are you in agreement with the proponent's engineer that those things have been ironed out and have been resolved?
Generally, yes, we were pleased that they did a test pit and provided satisfactory
Yeah, I
results
saw that.
for that. And any remaining comments are generally minor, kind of typo related comments.
Okay. Perfect. And again, I know some of those comments have to do in some way, shape, or form with the planning board permitting that is, I would dare say, even more scrutiny. So, okay, does anybody from the board or anybody from the general public have any questions, comments, or concerns relative to this project?
I'm good, Kevin.
Excellent. That being said, then I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
All right. I'll second the motion, Chris.
Perfect. This being Zoom, everything's roll call vote. So motion's been made and supported to close the public hearing. Roll call, Charlie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye. Aye.
Kevin Damaris says aye. So that motion carries unanimous. Gentlemen, I know you haven't been involved as much as I have with this, but I can tell you the level of engineering that's gone into this on both the applicants and environmental partners is, it was a bit of a difficult site, but I think at the end of the day, all the concerns were addressed as were indicated by peer review. So that being said, I would entertain a motion that we approve the plans, the most recent set of plans, and that was submitted for final review.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and supported. There's no other discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Mather,
Aye.
Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. Okay, Azu, thank you very much. You don't have anything else on our agenda tonight, right?
Okay,
Silent treatment.
I'm all set. Thank you very much. I am all set.
All right, thanks, Azu. Have a great night.
Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless. Have a
Yeah, Azu, just understand, and this is gonna go for everybody. We have a new clerk tonight, Victoria. This is only her second meeting and second full week of work. So if some of the paperwork seems to be slow to be received and slow to go back out, it's only because we've got a lot going on down here, and so just a little patience with us would go a long way. So thanks again.
We understand, and you're not gonna have any complaint from this side. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Have a great night.
Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Thank
You
you.
also, my friend.
Yeah.
Okay, next on our agenda, number 3, we have a continued notice of intent. This is for 16.5 Grant Dean Road in Assonet. I will call this hearing back to order. The last we met, again, this is on our website. You can find the plans, septic plan, site plan, and the notice of intent, filing itself. So is Rick Sharon here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Good. So I called this hearing back to order. Where we left off, I thought was, given the amount of wetlands and just given the site in general, we wanted to get out there and take a look. Given the conditions that are down there, I wanted to see the conditions myself that were down there. So I had the ability to go down there and check it out. And you're lucky. We had an extreme lunar tide. So I got to see Mother Nature in all her glory at high tide to see what was going on down there. So at the end of the day, Rick, I just have a couple of questions. So it's all in the flood zone,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
So you're allowed to put a new septic system in a flood zone?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. See, that answers that question, doesn't it?
No, it's certainly, this is an AE zone, so it's not a velocity zone. There are
I was
some
gonna say, it's
restrictions.
not- Yeah,
There are some restrictions in V zones, but not in the AE zone.
all right. And you won't need any kind of waivers for the septic system?
No,
The reason why I ask, it's relatively flat down there, and of course, like I said, I had the luxury of seeing the lunar tide,
Mhm.
so I got to see how high the water went. And of course, it's been raining, so there was some puddling and all. But what kind of system are you using? A Presby, right?
Yeah, this is a Presby system, partially to reduce the footprint of it so that we have less fill. As I mentioned at the last meeting, because we're in an AE zone, we are able to get a letter of map revision based on fill, so-called CLOMA F,
Yeah.
which is a reason why we're showing the entire house elevated up at above elevation 15 in order to get us above flood height. And that would allow us
Yeah,
to
yeah.
then get the CLOMA F. technically, if you have a Cloma F, you could literally build a house in here with a full basement. But the owners don't wish to do that. They're still going to have a slab on grade. So they're just going as conservative as possible on the design. What the Cloma F will do, however, is literally remove them from the floodplain. So they won't have to get flood insurance. Typically, in this situation, we advise that they do get it because it's a relatively low insurance rate. And then if the flood maps change at some point in the future and they go from base flood elevation of 14, say up to 16, these folks would still be protected. They would have some grandfathered rights if they hold flood insurance. So basically, they'd still be getting flood insurance, however, at a reduced rate because of the amount of fill, which basically removes the building from the flood zone.
And you can't put the septic system in front of the house because of the proximity to the well.
Yes, that's correct. We have it.
Yeah, I saw the new well. I saw the new well and the abandoned well. You only have 2 perk tests. That's good enough.
Well, this was done back in 2005, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, and
yeah, it
there
was.
was,
I went and checked the records.
yes, and there
Yeah.
was an approved plan at that time. We're making literally a change. In 2005, you could still do new construction with 2 test pits. If the Board of Health requires that we do an extra one, we'll go out and do another one. But again, we
Okay.
haven't been able to get into the Board of Health yet till we get through conservation.
All right. So I noticed you have a limit of work around there.
Yes.
And again, if it seems like I'm asking a lot of questions, that's why we went out there. And so when you say limit of work, are you intending to loam and seed, or because the limit of work is outside of your siltation barrier?
Yes, but I think it also
So-
goes beyond the buffer zone. Although you're right, though. We do have a section there. We could extend the siltation barrier. There is one portion.
And maybe I'm not, and I'm not trying to, maybe I'm not reading these accurately, but you've got a siltation barrier that goes around almost the Toa slope, and then to the north, it goes just across the existing Woods Road. But then you have the long and double dotted line that goes around and it says limit of work.
Yes.
Which is outside of the siltation. So is that a straight line?
Basically, there's no fill proposed in that area. Okay, so that basically there's a garden area proposed in there, and then outside the buffer zone, there's a small portion of that garden area that's in the buffer zone, but then there's a proposed barn that would be outside the buffer zone with its own access off of the driveway. But the majority of the work, all of the work is within that limit of work. We fell into natural heritage on this project, and natural heritage is always looking for the amount of area on the lot that you're doing work on. So that's where that limit of work comes in, and the areas that were submitted to natural heritage are based on that limit of work area. And as I mentioned last time, the majority of this work, as far as getting down to this site, was done back in 2004, 2005 under a prior order of conditions.
It's a very pleasant stroll, and if it wasn't, raining so darn much, it probably would have been more pleasant. But at the end of the day, it's just something that was brought to me. So I guess and I don't know if your client is on with us or not, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm fine if you're going to tell me now that you're not going to be doing anything within that area that would necessitate siltation control. But if, in fact, they go to do something later on, there may be a requirement that they come back to us. So I'm almost wondering if where there's going to be a proposed garden or something, that you don't want to just show it, or we leave it like this and they come back at a later date. You see what I'm saying? You see the limit of work, it kind of throws you off a little bit. How do I protect that limit of work? And I understand what you're telling me. I'm not.
Can I suggest
Sure.
can I suggest that we extend the siltation control to the limit of the buffer zone? All right, which would take it right now from, let's see. You have 2 limits here. You've got one limit of the area that's shown in greater detail on the SD plan, the septic plan. And you notice
that's
that.
the plan I'm looking at. I'm
Okay.
looking at the septic plan. right?
All right, and you'll notice
so-
on that plan, the siltation control stops just short of the limit of that view. And I think that's probably why we carried that forward onto the L1 plan, which is the overall site. We didn't pick up on it and continue that, but I think it does look like the siltation control could be extended parallel to the limit of work until it hits the edge of the buffer zone. Would that be acceptable?
All right.
All right, you follow?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is typically the limit of work is where the siltation control goes. So let's just look at the septic plan and look to the, I'm gonna say, yeah, the southwest, right? You got an existing woods road and then you got the limit of work on the wetland side of that. That is all within the 100-foot buffer zone. So if you're telling me there's no work gonna be done in there, that's fine, and we approve what's inside of the siltation barrier. But there's a note that says limit of work, and I understand why you put it on there because you're trying to show what you're gonna do for natural heritage. So if there's no work being proposed in there, that's fine, and that, you know, but understand the grading and everything else that we're approving tonight is only what is on this plan. So if the applicant wants to come back and do some work back there, I guess I don't mean a garden, but if they want to bring in some material and they want to, you know, increase their backyard, there's going to be another filing that they're going to have to go through.
We're not proposing anything beyond limit of work. Right, so, but I do think you have a good point in terms of the siltation control, because I think it's an oversight on our part that we didn't continue it parallel to the limit of work on the L1 plan, the overall site plan, parallel to that limit of work line until we reach the limit of the buffer zone. Right, so there's probably there's an area in there of about 60 feet or so that could be added into the end of the siltation barrier as we have it on the L1 plan.
Okay. All right, you've answered my questions now that I browbeat you. So, does anybody from the public have any questions, comments, or concerns about this, or anybody on the board have any questions? Again, this is available on the website. It's 16.5 Grant Bean Road. You can look at the site plan or the septic plan.
Kevin, I'm good.
Questions?
I'm
All
good.
right, cool. All right, that being said, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that.
All right. Did I get a second in there?
Yes, you did, but I'll second it.
Excellent. So motion's made in support to close the public hearing. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Passes unanimously. All right, gentlemen, I went down there. I think I've stated some of the concerns, but I believe they've been addressed with the siltation control issue there. And again, keeping in mind that all we're approving is what the work that is being proposed on this plan. So again, in fairness to the applicant, they should know that if anything's being proposed outside of that at a future date, they would need to come. And additionally, we have and will provide to the applicant signage that they can put on the property relative to work beyond any work beyond this limit or this area requires a filing with the Conservation Commission. Kind of a nice, polite reminder to those that are there or who may be there in the future that there are areas of concern. So that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the plans as submitted.
Motion made.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made, supported to approve the plans as submitted. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Mather,
Aye.
and Kevin Demaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks again, Rick.
Thank you all very
We'll
much,
see you.
and have a good evening.
Yes, you also have a good holiday. Merry Christmas, my friend.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you all. Good night.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. Next on our agenda, we have a request for determination of applicability. I will just point out the difference. This is not a public hearing. While the board appreciates public input and questions and allows them from time to time on non-public hearing issues, we are not obligated under the same guidelines or requirements. So that being said, is anybody here for 28 Huron Ave? This is a request for determination of applicability to repair and replace a septic system.
Yes, my name's Bill Gottwald. I'm the engineer. I'm here.
How are you, Mr. Gottwald?
I'm very good, thanks. Yourself?
Excellent, fine, thank you. So apologize for maybe some miscommunication to make sure that you were here at the last meeting and that, but at the end of the day, that you have a septic plan here that's for 28 Huron Ave, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, no problems.
Uh,
So I can give you a quick rundown of what's going on there.
Sure.
There is a septic system on the property right now. There's a tank and a couple of leaching trenches, and it's still working, but it needs to be replaced. So we're
Okay.
gonna propose to. We did some perk tests. We'll propose to leave the existing tank there and put a new leaching field, basically in the same place as the old one. If you see on the plan, there's really no other way to put it, and even putting it where we have it is going to be a very tight fit. So we have Long Pond on one side of the property, and across the street there's a Round Pond.
Round
So
pond.
those are the two areas that we need to protect.
Everything's really tight down there, Mr. Bell. I mean, it's at the end of the day,
Oh yeah, if you've been
This
by
is
the
an
property,
improvement.
I mean.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
yeah, this is an improvement. I'm just trying to think. So you're 65 feet away. That's your closest. Actually, that's for down there. God bless you.
But-
64
Yeah,
feet.
that's pretty good, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, we're 85
I-
feet from Long Pond and 65
Right.
feet from the wetlands across the street on Round Pond.
right, and not to get too much. Is this a raised system? No.
No, it's not.
No.
Well,
it's a gravity. Yep. Gotcha.
I'll have to take that back. It's somewhat, the yard is raised, so no, it's not going to be raised. No, it's not a pump system or anything like that. No, it's not raised.
Perfect. I just see you have the siltation control on the opposite side of the road.
Well,
Behind the
if you're out there to see the road, the pavement is right.
I
He
know.
has a retaining wall there, and
Right.
it's right there. There's really no other way to put it. And across the
No,
street,
that's
There's parking.
fine. I think
Yeah.
if anything, right, so you may have trucks and equipment that are gonna need to be parked down there. It's a tough site down there. I think we all understand that.
quite
So-
honestly, you're going to have to live load the material right off out of the yard, right into a truck. There's absolutely no way to
Right.
stockpile anything. So everything will have
Right.
to be taken out. So, yeah,
Well, that
it's
was
really
gonna be,
tight.
that was gonna be my only concern is you're probably your greatest potential for runoff, again, may be from any kind of dirt and material that's gonna be on the road. So, I would, part of the conditions, I think, for approval would be that not only does siltation control be maintained, but that there, daily, again, we're not talking, this project's probably gonna be a 3 to 5 day event, depending on the timing of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So, but there should be a field day of sorts, going back to my old days when they used to send you out there and clean up everything that you could find. So probably should sweep that area down there and just make sure, nothing's going to aggravate people more than to have mud, silt, debris, construction material in the road at night. So if we can make
Yeah,
sure
no,
we
be
clean that
cleaned up every day.
Perfect.
Not a problem.
All right. Anybody on the board have any questions, comments, or concerns?
I'm good, Kevin.
Excellent. Again, this is not a public hearing, but if there's anybody that's here that wants to just ask a quick question, if not, we can move on. Nope, okay. That being said, I would entertain a motion that we issue a negative determination, number 3, that in fact, it's in a buffer zone to an area subject to protection of the act, but will not dredge, alter, or fill any resource areas. So I would entertain that motion with the condition that there's a daily cleanup at the end of the day to ensure that there's no debris or silt in the road, and that the siltation control be maintained around that, across the street around the parking area, where you may have workers' vehicles and trucks parking.
I'll make the motion with stipulations.
I'll
Excellent.
support that motion by Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you very much. So roll call vote on a motion to remain supported, and if there is no further discussion, Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a very similar request. This is a request for determination of applicability for 36 Huron Ave. And Mr. Gottwald, if I'm correct.
That's right.
You're representing this one too. You got a twofer down there. That's good.
Yeah, it's twofer. And this is very similar, although it's as far as the impact on the wetland, it's a little bit less here. We don't have to deal with the small pond across the street, where actually the leaching facility is out of the leaching out of the 100-foot buffer. The only part for Long Pond, a little bit of the tank, maybe a little bit of the grading, but it's all in front of the house out near Huron Ave. So the same thing right now.
And this is the part of Huron Ave that goes up the hill.
Yeah, this is right on the hill, right? It's a pretty, yep.
Yeah.
I think yep.
You got an 11-foot. It looks like a 9.
It's very steep. Yeah.
Yeah. Grade change over the frontage there. So, so are you going to need to be putting any kind of retaining wall or anything like that on this?
No.
Okay.
This one here, of course, no issues with water table, so I was able to use a little bit more sidewall of the leaching area. We're going to use some concrete chambers, and there'll be tough grading again, but there's not anticipated, if it's graded the way the plan is, it should work out okay.
All right. And on this one, the existing system is going to be crushed and filled, and actually it's going to be removed.
It's going to be gone. It's going to disappear.
Because you're putting the new septic tank there. Yeah.
Right. That right where the cesspool is, and then there's a trench somewhere there too that will just all get excavated and be gone.
Where is this? Should they park on the right of way?
Well, this particular, they do actually. This lot has a set. They do park in the right of way, but they also own another lot on the other side of the right of way.
That's what I thought. Okay. The reason why I say that, Bill, not to cut you off, but you gave me the answer I thought is that it looks like you've got grading all the way up to the property line, right? And given the steepness and all, I just think it might be beneficial, considering we're not in the growing season, that we would continue and maintain, once it's been constructed, and maintain some sort of siltation barrier, so that we don't have a situation with runoff that's going to get into the road. So whether that's accomplished with a straw wattle or something.
Okay. Yeah. Through the springtime.
Loaming and seeding in December is not easy.
No, you can do it, but nothing's going to grow, as you know, and
that's what I'm saying. And so, if we get into the situation with a heavy rainfall, that you could end up with some washout. So I don't know if you ever seen it. I've used it before. It's like a mat, and it has a straw on the mat. It's like an 8-foot roll. You roll it out. You put some little clips in the ground. Yeah.
It works. It works fantastic.
I've used it myself. It does work.
It works fantastic.
Listen, how about this? Rather than me try to design something, because I'm not an engineer, why don't we do this? Why don't we just condition it, right? That and I would say, keeping in mind, while it wasn't an official condition on the other one, the same would hold true. It's just this seems more readily erodible, if you will, given the steepness.
Yeah, this is steeper.
Yeah. So however you want to do it, it needs to be maintained so that we don't have an erosion control issue.
Okay, I'll put some notes on the plan. Sure.
Perfect. All right. And have you gone through the Board of Health already? Are you good with this one?
Same thing, that previous, they were kind of wait, it's been submitted to them, but they're waiting to, for your
Okay.
sign off. So
Okay.
we have a lot of waivers from them, but,
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a whole host, and what I would say
Yeah.
is this: unless there is some sort of drastic change that makes you change the entire footprint, the limit of your work, you know, if you're going to be getting, you know, a lot closer to the wetlands, then if there are any changes, I would just ask, you know, through the Board of Health that you would just provide us with an accurate plan.
yeah,
that the Board of Health-
absolutely, but as you
Right.
can, there's no other way, there's nowhere else it can go, so I don't.
No,
foresee
you're
anything, but
kind of stuck there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no,
I get it. All right.
there's no alternative, but I'll, absolutely, I'll keep you posted
Yeah,
if
so-
anything changes.
So put those notes on the plans for the.
I will.
Okay, great. Does anybody from the board have anything? Anybody from the general public? Yeah. Okay. So that being said, again, second verse, same as the first. I'll entertain a motion that we issue a negative determination while the work is in an area, in a buffer zone to an area subject to protection of the act. It will not dredge, alter, or fill a resource area.
I'll make that
and
motion.
If I could just point of order, with the condition that the area be stabilized and post-construction until it can be loamed and seeded and grass growing.
So
So-
I will make that motion.
Perfect.
I will second the motion.
Excellent. So motion being supported. If there's no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Demaris states aye. Passes unanimously. Well, we will get this out to you as quickly as we can. So just give us some time.
Yep, not a problem.
All right. Excellent.
Like I
And,
said, we're still
if
going
there's
through the
any
Board of Health,
question,
so.
yeah, like I said, if there's any questions from the Board of Health, I'm here. I'm here daily, so if they have
Okay.
anything, they can reach out to me. All right.
All right, thanks for your help, fine.
Good thing. Yeah. Okay. Next on our agenda, we have a continued notice of intent for 3 French Street in Assonet. The applicant's Kenneth Resendes. The representative is Byron Holmes of Holmes Engineering. The scope of work is a roadway and lot preparation for a 7-lot residential subdivision. This public hearing has already been opened, so I will call it back to order. Again, folks, on our website, you can find the associated plans for this. So, is Byron here?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Byron.
We also have Ken and Jim Resendes.
Hi, Kevin.
How are you, Jim? How are you, Ken? Hope all's well.
Yep.
So it's been a while. Where did we leave off on this now? I know this has been going back and forth between peer review. Have we gotten any kind of resolution or made any headway on that?
We have, I think there's a minor confusion here. We haven't had a hearing as yet.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
We didn't have a hearing as yet.
Right, we opened it, but we didn't do anything, right? Because it was
Correct.
under peer review? Or-
Correct. We submitted this back last spring.
Yep.
And one of the peer review issues was the lack of test pits. Took us a little while to
Okay.
get, because of the pandemic, it took a while to get coordinated with the Board of Health. Finally, the test pits were done in September. We responded to all of the comments that environmental partners had. However, we haven't received anything back yet. I think there was a delay or some confusion on the need for additional fee. So we've responded to everything, but we haven't received anything back on those situations from Adam's company as yet.
Okay.
The major, one thing I did want to go over is because it's pretty germane to the whole subdivision, but one thing that's unique on this is the floodplain elevation.
Yeah.
And one of environmental partners' comments was they wanted more information on that because the reason for the flood elevation makes a big difference in the design of the project. So in our opinion, this is a land subject to coastal storm flowage. which the Wetlands Act defines as any land subject to inundation caused by coastal storms, up to and including that caused by the 100-year storm, surge of record, or whichever is greater. The reason that's important, that that's the type of flood zone it is because of the requirement for the post-development peak runoff should not exceed pre-development, as you normally have. That is not a requirement of a land subject to storm flowage. The Conservation Commission has the right to waive that standard, mainly because the amount of water going in there in a tidal area isn't germane, really. In fact, under the hydrology handbook of conservation commissions, it states that development discharges to a water course subject to tidal action, the stormwater management policy does not require the control of post-development peak discharge rates to pre-development levels. So that's the major issue. The others mostly were drainage that environmental partners will be reviewing, some revised calculations, revised drainage. And we did give them quite a bit of backup information on why that is defined as a land subject to coastal storm flowage. That's kind of where we stand right now.
Okay. Adam from Environmental Partners Group, are you currently working on the review?
We've not received notice that there's funding available for the review. We put in a request a couple weeks ago, I believe.
Okay. I will have to confirm that.
We did drop it off, Kevin, as you asked.
No, I know you did. I know you did. So I will have to make sure that gets confirmed tomorrow. Byron, can you just make a presentation on the overall project and just show us what's going on over there? We have the plans on our website, so we can follow along if you'd be so kind.
Okay, sure. I guess we'll start out with page 2 of the plans. That's an existing condition survey that shows the topography out there. If you've got the plans in front of you, you can see that all of the entire site, and the site is the parcel that's bounded. North of the site are 2 residential houses and French Street. East of the site is North Main, and then south and west of the site is quite an extensive saltwater, mostly saltwater, some freshwater wetland areas. So all of the drainage runoff now and when we're done, all goes towards the salt marsh to the south of the site, eventually into the Assonet Bay. On page 3 shows the overall layout of the subdivision. There's only 7 lots in here. There's the first 3 lots range in acreage from 1.8 to 2.2 acres. And then the last 4 lots, which all will abut the road on the north, and their southern boundary will be into the wetlands, beyond the wetlands. And those range in size from 3.5 acres to 17.9 acres. So they're pretty large lots. Ken and Jim wanted to keep this to just a single road, and rather than get into how many lots could they get into, just what we could get in there for some nice decent lots overlooking the bay. So we have a little over 1,000-foot roadway. That's the main part of it. That's pretty much the impervious area, other than the roofs of the houses. Drainage from the roadway will be taken by 2 drainage outfalls that'll flow to the south. Those go in towards the, you can see those pretty well on sheet 9, shows the outfall of those. Again, they head towards the wetlands. But there is no detention ponds. We've made provisions for the other items that are part of the stormwater standards, but the attenuation, because of the type of floodplain I mentioned earlier, there's no detention ponds. And the other item, because of that type of floodplain, is there's no requirement for compensatory fill. So we're not proposing any compensatory fill or stormwater detention ponds or anything of that nature.
Okay. Again, keeping in mind that we're just dealing with the wetlands here, we're not dealing with everything else. I just wanted people to get an understanding. So, other than some of the engineering items, yeah? Did somebody say something? No? So other than the engineering items, is there anything else that need to be worked out, and we'll get that squared away tomorrow? Are there anything else that you'd like to present to us tonight? We've obviously had some, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we've had some calls of concern from residents relative to this project, so I hope that folks are, and neighbors are on here, or at least keeping informed on what's going on. So I was just wanting to make sure that if there was anything else that you guys wanted to bring forward now, so that everybody could hear everything now.
Actually, the other items would be waivers from the planning board regulations. As far as conservation, the main thing is that flood elevation. We did get a call from one of the abutters, and I sent them a PDF set of the full plans and our original submittal.
Mm-hmm. And so, I'm looking at this, and you've got the river, you got a riverfront, you've got regular salt marsh, I say regular salt marsh, but salt marsh, and I'm just trying to see where the flood is on that page. What's a better page to see where the flood?
The flood elevation does show up on page 3.
Okay,
It
perfect.
runs way up into the site. That's why there is some, it's elevation 14.
Okay, yeah, area subject to storm flowing.
Right.
Yeah, okay, all right. So it looks like at least the bulk of the buildable portions of those lots are outside of that. It does appear that lot 6 may be.
Lot 5 and 6 and 7
Yeah.
have some fill.
Well, right. So again, keeping in mind, and I understand what you're saying as far as the compensatory storage, you believe you've got rules and regulations in your favor, and EPG's job is to review your response and to make that determination, and that's going to get done.
That's correct.
All right. All right. Does anybody from the board? So this obviously is going to get continued till we can get a finalization of the engineering comment. So that's fine. Does anybody from the board have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Negative.
Negative. Okay. How about from the general public? This is a public hearing, so if you do have a question or comment, again, just politely say, "Excuse me," or "Hey, Kevin." State your name and you can ask your question. Okay. So that being said, once we get this squared away, our next meeting is the 28th. Would you like to be put on the agenda for the 28th, or do you want to continue it to after the first of the year?
It depends on what kind of schedule that Adam has. I know with the holidays and things, it can be a little tight.
Well, worst case scenario, Byron, if it's not done on EPG's part, we open it and we just continue it to the next date.
Okay,
But if
that
it
sounds
is done,
Let's
if
go
it
with
is
the
done,
next date
then we can do it.
Okay, then
Okay,
let's go
the
with the
28th. Perfect. All right. I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 3 French Street to December 28th, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support Charlie's motion.
All right, motion made, support. If there's no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Passes unanimously. Continued to the 28th at 5 o'clock. Okay. Next on our agenda, did I skip one?
You did.
Victoria? Did I skip number 6, 3 Quarry Drive?
Yes, you did.
Well, it wasn't on purpose. I apologize. Well, since Byron's here for the next one, I'll get back to, so we'll do 8 next, and then we'll go back to number 6. I apologize. So we have a continued notice of intent public hearing for 0 Rocky Road. This is off of Copacut Road. So this is already a public hearing that we've called to order or opened, so I will call it back to order. Again, folks, on our website, you can see the plans that were submitted relative to this project. So, Byron,
Yes.
go ahead.
Okay, you want me to give you a little bit of a synopsis on what's going on out
Please.
here?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, this is a soil removal permit application. The soil removal permit, we've had the hearing and that has been approved. But there is extensive wetlands on this site. Part of this site was already owned by R5, which is the extreme eastern portion. The rest of this was recently purchased. It was part of the Campanelli project. There's currently an approved subdivision in there that comes in off of Copacut Road. That's hence the address of 0 Rocky Lane. That's the legal address the assessors have right now. The intent is to abandon the subdivision and build and have a gravel removal permit, mostly for the lot that they already own over to the extreme eastern part. That's a high area that was pretty much inaccessible until now. As you know, R5 already has a gravel removal operation south of all of this property, so the main abutter is them. So there'll be an entrance drive, gravel entrance drive coming in off of Copacut Road. That'll travel right across the previously approved subdivision road. And then it will continue on. There's some extensive wetlands there. And those wetlands on the Campanelli portion of the property were previously approved several years ago by the commission under abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. That has since been approved 1 or 2 times, and it currently doesn't expire until sometime in 2021. So those wetlands are already delineated and approved. The newer section, lot 32, which is again the extreme right-hand side, extreme eastern end, had not been previously delineated. We did that. Those needed to be looked at by environmental partners. I met with their botanist last Thursday out there, and she's approved the wetlands line. So all of the wetlands on the site have been looked at and have been approved. There'll be
Byron, not to interrupt, but if you're referring to any kind of plan pages, again, we have the ability to see them. So if you could just tell us what page you're looking at if you're going to do that, okay?
Sure. It's
Thank you.
page G1. I'll give you an overview of the whole site. Needed to mention too, we have Renee Gagnon here from Zenith Engineering. They did the drainage design on this, and he'll be available for any questions on that.
Okay.
So as you can see how tight the contour lines are over to the extreme east on that sheet. That's the slope from existing property downward towards the wetlands.
Yeah.
Either gravel or ledge. We're not sure, how much will be gravel and how much ledge, but as I said, that removal has been approved. The entrance drive coming in with respect to wetlands has several infiltration ponds along the length of it. And then there are 3 additional infiltration ponds in the more open area where the drainage flow will be going. We had an initial submittal that was reviewed by environmental partners, and we responded to their review. They came back with some additional questions, which we received Saturday night. So obviously those haven't been answered as yet. We don't see any large problems with the outstanding issues. And I'll let Renee weigh in on any of those. I think that's pretty much it. We do have a replication area. We're not really required for replication on this because there were some initial parts of the ANRAD that were done on the Campanelli property that showed some isolated areas, but they weren't defined. We've since done the volume calculations on those and found out that 2 of them were not jurisdictional. And the initial review of environmental partners agreed with that. But Ken and Jim asked us to put in a replicated area anyway, and you can see that over, there's an upland area that kind of is almost surrounded by the wetlands. So there'll be some wetland replication area put in there.
I see. Okay, so that's on the northerly part.
On the northerly part,
That's-
right?
Just west of the, just west of that basin, right?
Correct.
Okay. So again, like the other project, we're still waiting for some final sign-offs from Environmental Partners Group, but you have a good feeling that you guys have worked it out to that point.
Yeah, like I said, we owe them some answers, which will be forthcoming, and we believe that should do it.
All right. Adam, is that the case? You're reviewing his, or you are due to review his submittals and then get back to him?
We completed a review earlier this month, submitted it on Friday. So he got it over the weekend. And
Perfect.
yeah, there are some questions that, as he's aware of.
Excellent. All right. So again, if there's not much more, I hate you brought Renee along. Do you want to say anything?
Just a couple of comments. I think I would agree with Byron and Adam that there are a couple of things that we need to iron out, but I wouldn't say that they're anything that's gonna, inhibit the project in any way. I think we just need to make some tweaks, but again, there's no major issues from our perspective. So.
Okay. All right. Does anybody from the board have any questions? We've seen this before, and through the soil board, they've seen it too. So, if anybody from the board has any questions, if not, how about from the general public? Anybody listening in have a question or comment? Nope. Okay. Unless there's anything else that somebody wants to add, I guess we'll eagerly await the peer review, and we can continue this to the 28th like we did the last one, if everybody's amenable to that.
Yes.
All right. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for Zero Rocky Road soil removal operation to December 28th, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support the motion.
Motion made, supported. If there's no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Byron, good to talk to you.
Yep, same here.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Steve, sorry for stealing your place.
Thanks, Kevin and the board, and happy holidays.
Yes, thank you very much. Merry Christmas, you guys.
Thank you.
You too.
Stick around. Yep, thank you.
Take care.
Yep, bye-bye now. So apologies to Mr. Giosa. So we'll have to go back to number 6. This is a continued notice of intent for 3 Quarry Drive. This is a public hearing that has already been opened, so I will call it back to order. And again, these plans can be found on our website. So if you would, it is Steve that's here tonight, right?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. So for the record, Steve Giosa with SciTech, and I am representing the applicant on this project. It's been a while since we've been in front of you. As you know, we did get a peer review letter quite some time ago, and it took a bit to get through all of the things internally on the project, nothing to do with the peer review letter. The peer review letter was actually very succinct and relatively straightforward items that needed to be addressed. But we've worked our way through some of those items, and we did provide a response last week. I would imagine that Mr. Kran has not had an opportunity to finish a review of it. They were relatively minor in nature. from a wetland standpoint, I can refer to the board to look at, or the commission to look at sheet number 2 in the drawing set, which is the overall site plan. That's probably going to give you the picture of the changes in the conservation related items. And essentially, if you're looking at the plan, north is to the top of the drawing generally. And in the in the southwest corner of the site, the project is a solar project. So in the Cranberry Bogs off on the southwest corner, there is a little piece of riverfront area that extends onto the existing Cranberry Bog. We have added that riverfront line to the plan as outlined by the peer reviewer. And it is a very minor portion of the site. It's already altered portion of the site, well out into the outer 100-foot portion of the riverbank. And so this project would involve just a very minor amount of activity in that area, primarily putting up a fence and just the tip of a couple of the panels down in that lower corner. Again, but within an existing altered portion of the site. So we have added that information to the plan. We also added supplemental erosion control in the form of a silt sock to go with the silt fence line that would run along the lower perimeter of the activity for this site. And again, this is kind of a unique solar project where we are looking to locate within the abandoned bog system. These bogs have not been viable or farmed in quite some time and are reverting back to an upland condition. As you may recall, we presented that at the initial hearing for this project. So we're not, as in most solar projects, going in and doing any wholesale clearing of land. We are working within the bog system, the bog access roads, and the bogs themselves. So I think it's a fairly straightforward project, primarily buffer zone for a wetland standpoint. I think, again, from a conservation standpoint, those are really the only changes that were requested. There were a number of zoning related notes and some revisions to the decommissioning plan that was requested, which we have presented for review. And again, we wanted to come tonight to at least give the commission an update, and assuming, since we don't have a final review letter from the consultant, then we'd be looking for continuance to the next meeting.
Okay. Just a thought, and I just know this because it's going to be a comment from Environmental Partners Group, and we're going through a similar situation. You know, you're really going to have to prove out through an alternatives analysis or whatever why you have to do any activity in there. You know, the DEP, they'd like you to not have any activity. To your credit, you've identified it that it's previously disturbed. I get that, so you do get credit for that. That's why I say to your credit. So just make sure whatever alternatives analysis and any narrative that you're putting forth that obviously is going to be scrutinized by Environmental Partners Group and us, and then DEP obviously when this is all said and done. So
Yeah.
I think that would be my only comment on this is, you know, this is not unique to our town. A lot of cranberry growers are, for whatever reason, they're not, the cranberries, it's just not working out for them any longer, and that's too bad. So, you know, they've gone from cranberry farming to, you know, solar farming, and at least they have this viable option at the end of the day. So if as long as you've gotten over the hurdle also that identified that everybody's in agreement that these in fact are upland bogs, and I know we did talk about that in the initial filing, but I'm sure that was reviewed and we have comment on that. So
yeah. Yeah, on the issue of yes, Mr. Chairman, on the issue of the riverfront area activity, again, it is relatively minor. If it is a concern of the commission, I'm sure we could delete it from that portion of the project and just take it off the table. It's not a large component of the overall project, so from a solar production standpoint, really doesn't make much difference. We felt that since it was within the existing disturbed area and really about 160 or so to the 200-foot line away from the river, we thought it was relatively minor amount of activity, well below the 10% threshold. And, but again, we'll defer to the commission, but if there is an overwhelming thought on that, because you clearly, as far as alternatives are concerned, we could leave the cranberry bog as is and really not have any further activity there, but mounting panels and putting up a fence seems like a relatively minor activity in that zone. But again, we'll take the input from the commission.
I guess I don't want to speak for the whole commission. No, you're right. In the grand scheme of things, given the percentage of disturbed, previously disturbed area, given the percentage of the area that you want to disturb within that, I won't say it's de minimis, but it's not an awful lot. All I was saying is, again, just maybe a forewarning to you and others who are listening that the alternative analysis and the riverfront activity does get reviewed by Environmental Partners Group. And all I was saying is what you just told us, make sure that's in a narrative and it's all explained out to you so that everybody understands it. That's all.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Does anybody from the general public have any questions? Anybody from the board?
I'm good, Kevin.
Nope.
Perfect. All right. Steve, when do you think you would want this continued? Our next meeting is the 28th.
Okay. I would probably like to see the 28th if we can maintain that, because I think what I'm going to do,
Sure.
just listening to the fact that you're raising this particular concern, not concern, but you're bringing up this particular point. It's a relatively minor change for us to make to the plan. I would probably just go to my client and look to remove that section of the project from the riverfront area, just relocate the fence. That's a minor revision for us to make, and we can reissue the plans this week, and then hopefully be on for the 28th and see where that takes us.
All right. And again, worst case scenario, if there's any outstanding items, we can either hear where you've gotten to that point, or you can just ask for continuance until those items are resolved. So if there's no other questions or comments, then I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 3 Quarry Drive to December 28th, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. There's no further discussion on the motion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Chris Matter.
Aye.
Chris Matter says aye. Kevin DeMaris says aye.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good Christmas now.
You too now, and I'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. I gotta do this all over. Perfect.
Okay. Good night.
All right. See ya. Yeah. Bye-bye now. We do have a notice of intent for 12 Forge Road, but before that, I just would like to we have a request for determination of applicability, 41 Water Street. This is a application for an emergency wall repair, if you will. As members are probably aware, we have a notice of intent for this particular site now that's going under the scrutiny of Environmental Partners Group. We talked about it at our last meeting. There are some outstanding items that are needed. But in the interim, I've gone down myself and done a site inspection and have witnessed some of the failings of the wall. And I do agree with the assertions of the applicant that there is an issue there that needs to be addressed rather quickly. So that being said, I'm hoping we can just address this thing relatively quick and we can move on from there. So do we have the applicant for 41 Water Street? It looks like we have North Country Group as their representative, and this is emergency repair of the existing deteriorating revetment wall.
Evening, John D'Souza from North County Group.
How are you, John?
I'm all right, and you, sir?
Very good, thank you. So, last meeting, we were talking about this project, and you were, you're working on those issues relative to the construction of the home, your desire to build a barn, and whatever you want to do there. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands these are two separate items. In this request for determination, John, the only thing that you're going to address now is an emergency repair of this wall. Is that correct? We're not going to be out there changing grades. We're not doing it. We're going to put the wall stones by hand in place. Is that and this is what we spoke about when we were out there. So I just want to be clear.
Yeah, so right now, we are looking to remove the portion of the wall that is crumbling, and on the backside where it needs to be refilled, because there are sinkholes already on the backside that are just really getting bad. So we are asking for permission just to rebuild the wall up to the elevation of where it is right now, just to stabilize the ground out there so no more erosion will occur on the property.
Okay. And I think, just so everybody understands, some of the issues from the notice of intent were the fact that it's not that they wanted to rebuild the wall, it's that their associated grading, the things that they wanted to do, new septic system, house, that's where it rises to the level, where it needs further review, which is why I'm being very specific in that. And I'm glad you pointed that out, John, that this repair is to basically replace in kind. You know, we're not building a higher wall. We're not building a bigger, better wall. We're replacing the existing stones. In some cases, they may be on site, and others that you may have to bring, but it's going to be to the existing grade. And if you do have to do any kind of stone filling behind it, as you would do with any good wall construction, that is just done to the existing grade, that we're not going above and beyond. We're not bringing trucks full of dirt. We're not mounding up anything. You know, we were able to do a very similar project that down the street through an RDA, simply because they weren't bringing in fill. They didn't do any of that. They just placed some stones on top of an existing wall to secure it so it wouldn't further erode. See, the alternative is we do nothing and it erodes even further, and now we have more of an erosion problem going into the river. And so
Right.
it's going to help, I think, everybody, at least in the immediate. Do you have anything else to add to this, John?
Yeah, no, it's, you know, we're gonna just bring it up to the elevation that it's at right now. And then under the notice of intent that we have right before the commission, I believe we're gonna add another block onto the elevation with that permit, but not right now. Right now, it's just to stabilize so we don't lose any more earth out there.
Yeah, and truth be told, there are a few places there where it is washing out, and there's a sinkhole situation, and you know, it's just those stone walls there for a reason. We don't need that. We don't need the embankment starting to erode away. People can see it. It's happening now on the Assonet River. You go over the bridge, you can see where the wall that's not been repaired, and it's washing away, and it's going to continue if people can't repair the wall. So at least we can get that taken care of. So if you could just speak, I know you said everything. You're going to do everything by hand. Is that correct?
Well,
You're not gonna have any machines in the river?
We're gonna have a backhoe just to lift the rock up and put it over from the embankment side and lower it into place. But that's basically the only piece of machine that we're gonna have there, just to help with a rock, because of these stones, they're about 3 to 4 feet long. They're 2 foot wide and 2 foot high. So, you know, they weigh quite a bit of weight on them. So that's basically the only machine we have. It's just a smaller machine, just to lift the stone to place it where the old wall was.
Okay. So I guess my greater point is you're not going to have any machines in the water working. You don't have any kind of barges coming up. That's
no.
not happening.
No,
This is
everything
just-
is from the uphill the side. Absolutely. We're not doing anything in the water. We're not going in the water unless somebody falls off the edge, then they'll be in the water. But other than that, nothing's going in the water.
Right. I mean, unless somebody's in there walking or standing there or whatever. And again, we're fortunate to have a lot of wetlands in town and a lot of people live on them, and we have a lot of retaining walls. Down the bay shores, it's the same thing. People come in. I'm going to do it all by hand. I'm going to go in at low tide. And we treat them all the same way.
Right.
So that being said, if there's nobody that has any other questions on the board for this,
I do have
again,
a question, Kevin.
Please.
Do we have any existing conditions photos just to compare when the work is done at the end, or just to see what's going on now? I mean, I'm gonna approve
good
this.
point.
I'm just curious.
To answer your question, I don't have any, but here's what I'm going to do. John, part of the condition on this RDA specific approval is that you take pictures of existing conditions, okay? And then when it's done, we're going to go out there and look at it, and it should all match the elevations and.
So you know what we normally do with situations like this, we do what's known as a construction progress reports. So we're going to go out there. We're going to take photographs of exactly the way it is right now, and then as the work happens, we'll also do photographs of the work as it takes place, and we'll email those over to you so you have them as well.
Okay. That sounds good.
That's great. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, all right, that being said, I will entertain a motion that a negative determination that while this isn't a buffer zone to an area subject protection of the act, it will not dredge, alter, or fill a resource area with the condition that existing condition photographs be provided to the Conservation Commission. Post emergency wall repair photographs are provided to us, and that the elevations are maintained at current and existing conditions. Additionally, that there will be no machinery placed in the wetlands, and there will be no dredging or altering or filling anything within the wetlands. Everything is done just on top of the wall. So that's a
I'll make that
mouthful,
motion.
Perfect. And the good news is we've been recording all this, so poor Victoria can listen to that about a half dozen times when she writes it up. So motion's been made. I need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and supported. If there is no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Chris Mather.
Aye. Kevin.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. So motion passes unanimously. John, give us a few days on getting this paperwork out, okay?
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's going to take a few days to start bringing in the block anyway.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everybody. All right, next on our agenda, we have number 9. This is a notice of intent for 12 Forge Road. The applicant is a Ryan Young. The owner is Michael Brillo. The representative is, Richard Kabazinski. I hope I said that right. And scope of work is for a proposed ground-mounted solar array. As this is a brand new public hearing, I will entertain a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made and supported. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Chris Mather.
Aye.
Kevin Damaris. Aye. Folks, if you're listening, what we did there, the public hearing notice is something that we have to advertise. It's a rather lengthy document that basically states what I've just said. We have a public hearing tonight. It's for that application. Those are the people that are involved with it. So it's just a formality on our end. All right, who do we have here tonight for 12 Forge Road?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Ryan Young. I'm here with Chris King and also Asa Smith from Atlantic, and also Christina from CVE, who's our engineer on the project.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Keeping in mind, this is, and for those that are at home, Victoria, I don't know how many people are still on, but we may have some interested parties on the line. This is a public hearing that deals with the Wetlands Protection Act only. You may have gotten another notification or heard about this will be at a planning board meeting. Ryan, am I correct in stating you are on the agenda for tomorrow night's planning board?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. So again, our purview as the Conservation Commission deals solely with the Wetlands Protection Act. So all other questions are probably going to be better answered through the public hearing process that the planning board will hold. So that being said, Ryan, we have the accessibility to the plans. So if you are describing anything on your plan, sir, if you'd be so kind as to just tell us what sheet you are on so that we may follow along.
Okay. I'm just going to be very brief, give a real quick introduction, and then turn it over to Chris King at Atlantic. I think, I just wanted to mention that CBE is a company that's been around in the States for a while now. And we've developed some projects in the both Western and Eastern Massachusetts. And we're a little bit different than some in that we find, construct, finance, and own our projects for a long time. So we're going to be around in the community for a long time, operating this system and any others we do. That's one thing that just sets us apart. And as the chairman said, we'll get into all the details of the project tomorrow and at the public hearings for the planning board. But I wanted to point out that I'm pretty sure my phone number and email is in our application to the Conservation Commission. And if anybody has any concerns or questions, happy to have you reach out to me and let's discuss them. And with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Chris King with Atlantic.
Good evening. Thank you, Ryan. Hopefully everyone can hear me all right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time on the commission. As Ryan stated, my name is Christopher King. I'm with Atlantic Design Engineers. I'm a senior project manager here. I've worked on the design of this project and the current notice of intent filing before you folks this evening. If you're all familiar with the property, it's located at 12 Forge Road. It's really the back portion of the lot. The lot in its entirety is roughly 20 acres, identified as lot 137 on Assessor Map 210. Again, there's a single family house out front along Forge Road with a street address of 12 Forge Road. It's right on the curve. The property is bounded to the west by the rail bed, to the south by properties owned by not only the town and it's also the state. And then on the east and north, privately owned residential properties. We had our wetland scientist, Ward Smith, walk the site in June of last year. He identified 5 wetland systems that are shown on, if you were to turn to sheet 2, I feel like is probably the cleanest sheet to start with. That's our existing conditions plan. And so just working around the residence itself, you have the E wetland series, the smaller A wetland series, and then the larger B wetland series in the southwest corner. That area of the site, as you well know, there's a pretty definitive topographic ridge that runs through the site in a north-south direction. It's right by Profile Rock. I'm sure you all know that. So the E, A, and B series frame, let's call it that, the lower portion of the site. The topography steps up in grade as you go from the west to the east. And there's roughly, a 30 to 40 foot differential in the elevations between the two halves of the site, with the eastern half, just call that kind of the upper portion of the site. Again, our scientists identified the 5 wetland areas in addition to the 3 along the eastern edge. You also have the C and the D series that are more properly located in the northeast corner of the property. Our scientists confirm that the site does not contain estimated or priority habitat. We're not in a floodplain, so really we're before you this evening for approval to construct, as noted, a ground-mounted solar array, and our array will be located within 100 feet of the wetland areas that are identified on the plan before you. Before we design the project, we typically try to do our due diligence, if you will, and we research some of the recent projects that were reviewed and approved by the commission. One that comes into mind that was just, I believe it was before the commission in February of this year and went through the planning process, ultimately ending in July of this year. But that was the High Street Solar Project. And so just, understanding the town doesn't have a bylaw per se, and that the wetlands, the Protection Act can be interpreted differently by various jurisdictions. We wanted to kind of go by a measuring stick as far as what, we thought the parameters and what the commission will be looking for. So that's the plan you see before you on sheet 3, which is our overall development plan. On the 20-acre property itself, our array, if you will, is, it depends, everyone calculates it differently, but it's roughly 8.5 acres within the fenced-in area itself, and there's a little bit more, including the access road itself. The arrays have been sited. I guess, every project needs access, so we're utilizing the existing access associated with 12 Forge Road. There's a somewhat grown in, but it is an old remnants of a cart path or traveled way that extends off of the existing gravel area and pavement area, and kind of meanders back to the south portion of the site, if you will, the back of the site. We've proposed to utilize that as our main access point, and we have 2 arrays. Basically, again, split due to site topography. We have the eastern array, and then we also have the western array. The panels themselves are generally located outside of the 100-foot setback. Hopefully that's clearly demarcated on the plan in front of you on sheet 3. But consistent with other projects, we felt it important to keep the panels as far away from the wetland, with the majority of them being outside of the 100-foot buffer. We have our fence line as in not most areas, but particularly in the areas contiguous with the wetland edge. The fence line is within the 100-foot buffer, and then we're proposing to do something interesting on this project. I'm not sure if the commission has seen it before, but we do have areas outside of our proposed fence line where, instead of doing wholesale clearing and grubbing and then reseeding it with a maintained turf grass, we're actually proposing to come in and basically perform pollarding or topping of the existing trees. And that's just for shading impacts only. The intent is that the existing ground cover remains and that we're just topping trees. And this is a proven practice, particularly in the forestry industry, that helps promote understory growth, which I know it's not within the commission's purview, but certainly helps from beefing up the existing vegetation ability to provide screening, excuse me, but it also helps develop the understory, which is, of course, valuable from a habitat standpoint. So again, the area of topping or pollarding on sheet 3, it basically runs along the perimeter, and it's somewhat of a cross hatch, if you will, just outside of the fence. The total buffer zone impact, including the screening areas, roughly 2.5 acres, a little bit more than 2.5 acres. And nearly half of that is this pollarding or topping area. And so, understanding the definition of impact is written, it's black and white. We'd like to think that the topping area, the pollarding, is viewed as, less of an impact, if you will. We've maintained a 25-foot no disturbance zone around all of the wetlands, mapped by our scientists, with exception to one area, and that is the area that's associated with the stormwater basin at the southwest corner of the site you see on sheet 3. So it's just due to the outlet and the existing grades, and in order to get the pond to daylight, we had to extend that a little bit further, but that's really the only area where we're going to be within 25 feet of the wetlands. All the equipment pads are centrally located and outside of the buffer zone. And when you look from a percentage standpoint, really the percentage of panels in the buffer zone is very minimal. Again, with most of the disturbance, if you will, and I'll use that term loosely in some respects, within the buffer zone is installation of the fence, which we know isn't subject to the Wetlands Protection Act because we will be providing the critter gap at the bottom edge. We certainly have the stormwater facility within 100 feet, and then again, our areas where we're proposing to do pollarding or topping to try to help with the shading impacts. We are aware that the town does have a stormwater bylaw, and again, we've looked at previous projects and really tried to mimic what they have done, and in an effort to kind of taking a more global look at the site and the surrounding areas, we felt it was important to try to divert and collect as much of the stormwater as we could into our proposed basin, which then discharges into the largest wetland system, as opposed to sending it right up against the rail bed or more towards the abutting residences. So again, understanding this is our first hearing, I would, I think that's, about as succinct as I could get. I understand that there are some abutters waiting to comment, and the commission may also have some questions. Unless there's anything specific the commission has for a question, I kind of like to turn it over for discussion purposes. And, see if the commission has any comments, the abutters, and then try to chart a path moving forward. We think it's a good project for the area. It's where we're committed to doing a native pollinator seed mix within the array, somewhat creating a meadow, which is an increasingly rare habitat, particularly in this area. And we think that creating and doing the pollarding along the edge will, in addition to creating a meadow habitat, would create some kind of viable edge habitat before you transition either into the adjacent woodland or the adjacent wetlands. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to the commissioner or anyone else who may have some questions that hopefully we can answer this evening.
Sure. So for clarification purposes, you mentioned that the hatched areas on your plan represent an area where you're only going to be topping the trees, or what's the word you used was pollarding?
Correct. Yes, pollarding.
Okay. But when I see the note on the plan, and maybe again I'm mistaken, it says that proposed tree clearing outside fence area for shading impacts, cut and remove trees, stumps to be left flush at grade, ground cover soil and understory to remain.
Yes. So depending on the height of the trees, some of the trees will need to be, cut flush, but our intent is to really limit the amount of tree cutting that is required. So, right up close to the fence line, there would be, some areas where they would be cut flush, but as you move outside of the fence area, maybe about 25 feet or so, that's where we would look to start pollarding with the intent that, the existing ground cover to remain, and it's really cutting some of the the higher trees, if you will, that are going to create shading impacts.
Yeah, and it's not new here. I'm not going to try and take credit for it, but they've been doing it on a few of the projects here in town, so that the town is aware of it and that practice. And so, you know, given the amount of activity proposed here and the amount of wetlands and all, there may be a call or a need to, you know, better illustrate where in fact you're going to be you know, pollinating trees and where you're going to be wholesale cutting them down. If you have the ability, and I have a feeling that question is going to come up under peer review. So where it stands right now, I believe you've supplied us with some funds for an initial stormwater and wetlands review, which will help answer questions for both the Planning Board and Conservation Commission. There obviously may be some further review per the solar bylaw as required by Planning Board. But is that an accurate assessment of where we're at right now?
If you're asking the applicants, I believe that to be true.
Okay. And Adam, you have that, right? So you guys are starting your review on that?
Yep, we've started the review. We have a letter we're hoping to get out in the next week or so.
Perfect. All right, so I that being said, so everybody understands where we're at with this. Curious on the drainage, if you will, on the northeast portion, the east, if you would, east array.
Yes. Yep.
I don't see any drainage.
So that, sure, and that's part of the stormwater review. But again, our intent is to use a native pollinator meadow mix, if you will, with reduced frequencies to allow seed to bear and create a more robust turf. That area of the site, not to get into the minutiae of the details, but that area of the site has an A soils, which is a well draining soil. And so when you change ground cover, the difference between, say, woods and you know, a robust turf mix is less of a change than if you were in a more poorly draining soil. And so what we've done, and we think we've clearly identified it within the stormwater report itself, particularly the pre and post development plans, is where, you know, taking some of that area that previously went to the wetlands located in the northeast and removing that from that contributory area and sending it down to our pond. That's why the pond that seems so robust down in the southwest corner is that it was designed to take more area than it does currently. And that was helping us to offset the requirement for stormwater infrastructure in that portion of the array itself.
So it's your assertion that the drainage and the runoff from your east array doesn't migrate and make its way to your D line wetland?
It does, but I'm saying that based on the stormwater analysis provided, we feel like we've demonstrated that the peak development rate of runoff under post-development conditions is equal to or less than the pre-development conditions. So we're actually reducing the amount, or matching or reducing. I think it's not much less, but we're basically matching the existing runoff that currently goes to those areas. And again, that's helped in part by the A soil group and the well draining soils and just the difference in ground covers when you're dealing with the A soil. And then the fact, again, that we've taken, area that previously went there, and now we've able to send it down to the pond with a series of swales along the perimeter and then an internal swale. That's the feature you see on sheet 3 at the northern end of our pond. There's a swale that goes all the way up to that first equipment pad from a southwest to northeast direction.
Right.
And that takes a lot of that hillside and then a portion of the eastern array as well.
So you're just relying on overland flow, right? No, you don't have any drainage structures? No culverts?
Correct, and not
No?
not
just an
on the
open
eastern
trail?
portion. Correct, yep.
Okay, and on the western portion, you have an outlet structure at your D pond.
Correct.
That's
An outlet
about-
structure at the, yep. Correct.
For hardscape, if you will, or hard structures, that's about it. Okay. No, I think the concern is more about ensuring that the wetlands that are on site are going to continue to get the water and the flow that they're getting now. And so and again, this is the first public hearing. We're all kind of looking at these plans basically for the first time. And so I'm seeing the eastern array go from an elevation of about 140, I'll just use round numbers, and then the wetlands down about 115. So there's going to be a certain volume of flow that's going to be going down that way that needs to get there to recharge that wetland, unless I'm mistaken. Does it not work that way?
I would agree with what you're saying.
Okay. So is there not, if there are no drainage, if there is no drainage, proposed for that area, how do we ensure that the existing wetlands that are on site are going to continue to act in that manner and are not going to be cut off, if you will, by the proposed access road that has to go around the solar array or any kind of associated grading and all? I'm assuming, and you don't necessarily have to answer it right now if you don't have one, I'm assuming that Environmental Partners Group will do the thorough review that we do on all of our solar, especially on the stormwater. So you'll probably have some comments, but I think just looking at this again, cold, there is just a level of concern that I think it's going to need to be addressed how we can maintain those wetlands. So that being said, all right. Do you have any more of a presentation, or would you like, I know you've already given me the opportunity, I can open it up for questions from the board. Does anybody have any questions on the board for this project? Again, I know it's new. This is on our website also, so if you want to look at it.
I have a couple questions. Charlie, did you want to
Sure.
have any questions first and then I'll follow up?
No, I'm all set at this time. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. So I don't know if I should address this question to Adam or to the applicant, but we're referencing the pollarding of trees. And I also know, are there any successive maintenance or cuttings that are planned? In other words, are you just going to go in and cut down so that the solar panels can maximize the exposure to the sun? Or is anyone going to come back 5, 10, 15 years and look at these trees and make sure that they're still healthy and that the cutting didn't cause anything that's going to cause them to get a disease or fall down or anything that might then in fact impact the wetlands in an adverse way 15, 20 years from now? So perhaps, is that,
sure.
Adam, is that something you'll look at in the study? Or Chris, if you wanted to speak, please, by all means.
I was just going to say that, it's not uncommon for a project like this to develop some sort of, I don't think land management plan is appropriate just because a lot of the area is outside of the buffer zone, but we could certainly offer more clarity with some kind of construction protocol for the areas within jurisdiction that we're proposing to do this, to speak to the concerns that you specifically addressed. Again, I'm anticipating getting a thorough review letter from the folks at Environmental Partners Group. So, I'm confident, just based on some of the parameters that we use to design the project, that we could provide additional information or clarity so that we're demonstrating that will not be the case, and also speak to some of the issues regarding the starving or mimicking existing runoff patterns echoed by the chair as well.
And I could say, this is Adam Kran with Environmental Partners. I can say that, a couple of the comments that we're planning on making are related to just understanding the applicant's assumptions for cover type, both within the panel area and outside the panel area, and making sure that those are modeled from a stormwater point of view. The runoff from those are modeled as they as would be commonly done. For example, is the clearing of the trees going to affect how you would model that area in terms of a stormwater perspective?
Okay. Very good question, very good answers. So I have a question. Am I to believe that the stone wall and the northeast corner are the limits of the wetlands on your D and C lines, or are the wetlands migrating off-site? And if
Yeah, so the wetlands, so I can't say with 100% certainty, but it's pretty close to it that the wetlands migrate off-site, and it's just the fact that they are not located on our property. And so we will locate, what is flagged out in the field, and then for the purposes of the notice of intent filing, we basically remove anything off property. It seems to be pretty standard protocol these days, but the property line certainly isn't the definitive boundary, if you will, along that northern edge. More than likely, they migrate to the north. But we thought that hopefully agreed that it wasn't necessarily applicable to the notice of intent filing, as we've located what we needed to define the jurisdictional area.
Well, I think to some degree you're right, but I don't know that you made a statement that it seems to be what's happening now. That I think that our jurisdiction doesn't end at property lines, and the fact of the matter is our jurisdiction is within 100 or 200 feet of wetlands, no matter where they exist. So I don't know how much further along the wetlands are, but quite honestly, if along your D line they happen to go in a northwesterly direction, you may in fact have more area within the buffer zone that should be identified on your plan. So I don't know, and something tells me EPG is going to point that out too. But maybe likewise, and where your C line, the C1, C2, I see where it goes off onto one person's property, but it kind of dies at your property line. And I'm not saying it doesn't, and I'm not saying that you're going to have any impact. You may go out there and find them, but I would say this: don't be surprised that if you look that you're asked to verify that in fact the limits of the buffer zone are accurate on your plans. All right.
Sure, I think that in conjunction with our wetland scientists, we could work with EPG to
Sure.
provide additional analysis where just looking at the topography, I think it's clear that some of them kind of make a turn and bring the jurisdiction area further off of the property, in particular down around C1, C2. But I see your reference to the D series. So, again, our intent is to basically work with the commission and EPG, if you will, to make sure we're providing enough information so that everyone is comfortable with making a decision with what's presented. So we can certainly work through that process and provide additional information in conjunction with our wetland scientist as well.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. Thank you. So I guess now would be the time if anybody from the general public has any questions. Again, a polite reminder, just get my attention, state your name for the record. If you're calling in on a phone and you're muted, it's *6 to unmute yourself. You'll ask the question through the board chairman, but will be answered by the applicant unless, of course, it's a procedural question that we can answer. Again, keeping in mind that the questions here should be and only are to be related to the Wetlands Protection Act and our role associated with that. The planning board will be the place where you go for any other kind of general questions relative to the project. So that being said, does anybody from the public have any questions? Okay. One or two things. There's no interest, or we've actually done a pretty good job in getting some of the information out there, and people are getting some of their questions answered. So I would also state that if anybody has any questions, they didn't get a chance to see it live, feel free to email the town, conservation@freetownma.gov. Additionally, you can send it to planning@freetownma.gov should you have any questions relative to the planning board filing. So if there are no other questions from the public or from the board, I'm going to allow Environmental Partners Group and the applicant's representative do what they do and get through some of these hurdles with the review. Would you like to be continued to the 28th, or would you like to be put off to the first week, I guess, in December? What would that be? I mean, sorry, January. I don't have a January calendar. Stand by.
2 weeks from the 28th is January 11th.
January 11th. Okay. Yeah, because January 4th is the Monday after the long weekend for New Year's. Of course, we'll all be on lockdown, but whatever. Yeah, so it would be the 11th after that if we do it 2 weeks. So I'm going to allow the applicant to request it. If we go to the 28th and it's not ready, we simply open up the public hearing. If you want to say a few words, if not, we just continue it to the next meeting. So it's up to you.
I think with the holidays upon us, and not, seeing the actual review letter yet, I think it probably makes sense to continue it to January 11th in the interest of everyone's time. That'll also give us the ability to appear before the planning board, and then more than adequate time to provide the information to the commission and EPG. I think that makes the most sense.
Excellent. So you got to go to the planning board. Wait till you meet their chairman. So I'll entertain a motion again to continue the public hearing to January 11th. Is that correct, Victoria?
What was that?
Am I talking? January 11th?
Yep.
Okay, January 11th, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and supported to continue the public hearing for 12 Forge Road proposed solar array to January 11th, 5 o'clock via Zoom. If there is no other discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan says aye. Chris Mather.
Aye.
Chris Mather, aye. Kevin Damaris states aye. Ladies and gentlemen, that item is continued to the next, till the 11th. So, folks, you have a good holiday. Be safe. Wish everybody well. If the applicant has any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to reach out to us via email, or you can leave a phone message. Our conservation office is in disarray right now. There's some minor construction going on up there. So again, a little patience will go a long way. We'll get back to you. We'll try to make sure everything works. Okay.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time, ladies and gentlemen, and likewise, stay healthy and everyone have a happy holidays.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. This has been a long one, gentlemen. So is there anyone else here from the public that might have any questions before we end the meeting? Any general questions? Okay, I'm going to push off items number 11 to the next meeting. I haven't had dinner and I'm just about going to drop. So if there's nothing else, then do we have any of the minutes, Victoria?
Yes, the minutes from the 23rd.
Yep, you sent those out, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes. So if anybody's had a chance to read them and wants to give me a motion, that would be great. If not, we can do that next meeting also.
I'll make that.
I'll support
Need a sec-
Mr. Sullivan's motion.
Excellent. Motion's made support to accept the minutes as submitted. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Chris Mather says,
Aye, aye.
Chris Mather says aye, and Kevin Damaris says aye. All right. If there's nothing else, I would say this, that I will wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season. And be safe, folks. I'm always available if you need to reach me. And that is now time for the most important motion of the night. Charlie?
Adjourn.
Checking.
I don't know. I'm
Chris,
stuck
did you-
on this. To be a tough
No,
one.
no, Chris, don't be stuck. Don't be stuck. 'Cause we might
I
lose
don't
the
know.
transit, so-
All right. I'll make it. I'll support the motion
All right,
again.
it's been made. Don't make me second it, because I'll just second it. Motion's been made and supported. There's no further discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Mather,
Aye, aye.
Kevin Damaris, aye. Guys, thanks again for your patience. Another strong 2-hour meeting. Be safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Take
Take
care.
care.
Chris,
Safe
take
travels.
care.
Yeah, bye-bye now.
Ciao.